Hi, this is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews, and I'm here to do a brand new 2025 movie review. And the movie is on Shudder, Monster Island. Directed by Mike Willione. Stars Dean Fujioka, Callum Woodhouse, and Alan Maxson. Set in the Pacific, 1942, a Japanese soldier and a British prisoner of war are stranded on a desert island hunted by a deadly creature. Two mortal enemies must come together to survive the unknown. Alright, so this creature feature was just released to streaming on Shudder. It is a throwback film set in 1942 involving two prisoners who are stuck together. They're chained together and they survive a sinking boat during World War II, and they end up landing on this island. And on the island, they come to find out surrounding it and living on it is a monster. And this monster, according to what I read in the premise, is somewhat similar or is a nod to the creature from the Black Lagoon, which is a very old school movie from back in the day. And it also was giving me Predator vibes as well. So let me get into that. Let me say this movie, Monster Island, is definitely like Castaway meets the creature from the Black Lagoon, but also meets Predator. So the reason why I say Castaway is, well, you have these two guys, they're stuck together and they are stranded on a desert island. So there's that whole stuck, not sure when they're going to get rescued, not sure how long they're going to be stuck there, but they're definitely castaways on this island. But then you have our creature. Now our creature definitely was giving me Creature from the Black Lagoon vibes, but he also in some scenes reminded me of the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. And then I also was getting Predator vibes, not really from the creature, but more from the entire setting of the island that they're stuck on. They're deep in these jungly woods, there's gators, there's bugs, there's lots of dead bodies, dead men. It's very green. And I remember in the original 1987 Predator, it's very green. And then you have also the fact that the majority of the cast are men and are like military guys. And these are people that were military guys. They were battling in the war. And of course, a couple additional guys get on the island as well, which they end up being pretty much cannon fodder for the monster on the island. So of our main two stars, you have Bronson and Saito. Now Bronson is the British guy, and he talks English. So I was a little concerned because I thought this was going to be an entirely in subtitles movie, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna do the whole subtitle thing, especially reviewing subtitle movies on my channel. I did just review two movies that were in other languages, but the voices were dubbed in quite well, where it was almost, and I say almost, you don't realize that it's a foreign movie. And with this one, I would say, yes, there are subtitles because Saito, he is Japanese and he does not speak English. So I found it interesting that these two main characters who are stranded together, who both speak different languages, did a pretty good job of picking up on each other's motions and language to understand what they were doing. And they were in a very dire situation, being stranded and being chased by a giant creature, so they kind of needed to get that done. So those of you who may be similar to me, who aren't always in the mood for a subtitle movie, I wouldn't say you have to worry too much about this one because there's not too much dialogue. I would say even when Saito talks, it's very one-worded or just a lot of signs. You kind of know what he's saying because Bronson's understanding him as well. So I wouldn't say it plays a role in the way I felt about how I took in the movie. So the positives on this one, all right? Well, I like our two main protagonists. They're both very tough final guys. They're very fighters. There's no women in this movie, so there's no final girl, but these are our final guys, and they they really fight hard against the island, against the creatures. And there's more than one creature on this island. At one point Bronson encounters a crocodile, and there's other things on this island, but the main creature is like the alien looking creature from the Black Lagoon looking creature. And I would say this creature design is not too original. Obviously it is inspired by many of other movies, but they did really well. Handled mostly with special effects and costumes. There's not too much CGI in this movie, which was refreshingly pleasant. Okay, so what am I mixed on this one? I guess the big mix is, they don't really explain much about this creature, where it came from, what it is, what's going on with it. I kept dying, or I thought they kept killing it, and they never kill it. So like, it's a good cat and mouse chase type of creature feature, but there's not much of why or how or where the movie's going after, they get off the island. And I guess that would lead me to what else leaves me mixed is, it kept having like what seemed like multiple endings, because they were in a cave and I thought it ended there, then he was on the shore and I thought it ended there, and he's rescued it on a boat, and he's on this boat, and it seems like a very extended scene once he's off the island. And that will lead me to, the negatives. So you have the pacing issues. So there's pacing issues in this one. I would say a lot of that has to do with for the majority of the movie, it's two of them and on this island, and for a good portion they get separated, and there's a lot of just walking around and trying to evade the creature. And there's some parts where it's like, okay, are we gonna get to the next plot point here? And I guess the other thing I'll leave in the negatives is sometimes these characters, I felt like they were natural enemies, and then they became friends pretty quick. I guess I felt like it would have taken more time for each man to trust the other man. But I guess I can consider that, they are in a dire situation. They are battling this crazy creature that initially seemed to come out of the ocean, but then really lived on the island. And as far as the side creatures or the side characters, they show up and then they're killed off pretty good, and I felt like it was kind of combined into this like middle portion of the movie, definitely in the second act, which leaves the first act and the third act not having as much action or kills. Now the kills, when they do happen, are pretty decent, but there's not that too many kills because there's only 2 or 3 other guys on the island that are stuck battling this creature, and they are Japanese guys that are basically against our 2 main protagonists, because they had chained Saito to Bronson because he was basically being seen as a traitor. He had killed his direct captain, the person that he was reporting to above him, and it gets into that at the way end of the movie. So let's get down to business on this one. I don't want to put too many spoilers or who lives, who dies as far as our main characters. This is streaming on Shudder. I do believe it is worth at least a one-time watch. And I'm going to give this one a basic burger. And the reason why is, it's very good overall, but with a few lagging issues and a few things that didn't make sense that the characters did. It just becomes being a fairly basic watch, even though the overall production value of the movie is half decent. Well, this is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that notification bell, all that jazz, and stay scared of those Monster Island, Black Lagoonish, predator type creatures that will stalk you on an island.